Hi, everybody. It's Monday. I know, I'm streaming on a Monday. That is really weird. And I'm streaming on a Monday because I'm not going to be home this weekend. I have a conference for work, so I'm not going to be on my normal stream, which is why I wasn't on my normal stream this past weekend. So much to get ready for. So today I'm just coming over here to hang out with you guys, sort of embracing my very where the wild things are today because apparently I'm really cold. That's the problem with living in Arizona. It's so hot outside that you use AC to stay cool inside, but then you get so cold that you're inside. It's just, I get cold easily. So I'm just going to be like, where the wild things are esque. And I'm just going to share stories with you guys today and explain what's my plans are this year for the remaining part of this year and in 2022, what I know so far. And you guys get to see me fresh off work, so if I look tired, I probably am. But hello, thank you for joining the stream today. I'm going to be sharing videos and photos and just kind of progress of me as a cosplayer. So if you have any questions, if you're starting out and you want to figure out what to do, let me know. I know I can control the temperature, except I live with someone who likes it really cold. And I freeze if it's like under 85. So yeah, I know. Whatever. Oh well. So today is hello. Hi. Today is just me focusing on my journey through cosplay, and that's literally what I'm doing. So I wanted to show my very first tutorial. Oddly enough, when I started with cosplay, I didn't have the funds. A lot of people don't have the funds to start with things, right? So it's one of those moments in time where you try to figure out how do you start. So I actually did crowdfunding to raise enough money to create my Demon Hunter. It was specifically just getting the materials and the tools because I didn't have enough money for more of like the heat gun and some other things at that point in time in my life. I was still growing financially. So my very first tutorial is what I used as like a hey, thank you for supporting me. And then I also offered some rewards to individuals who helped me get started with my initial tools. Strangely enough, the heat gun that I bought, my very first heat gun, is still alive today, 7 years later, doing wonderfully. So it was a great heat gun. But this is the very first tutorial that I wrote. It was a Warbler 101 tutorial on Instructables. As you can see, it is quite popular. And I've had a lot of fun writing tutorials. So this was the first time. This picture is terrible. It was the very first picture of my armor. I probably should replace this picture with a better one. But when I wrote my first tutorial, I realized that I actually enjoy sharing my knowledge with others. And so that's how I got into doing panels. So I created my first costume in 2014 following Kamui Cosplay's Warbler tutorials, and then I modified it because I wanted to have detailing on my version of the Diablo 3 Demon Hunter. And I also worked in a my state's much warmer than where Kamui lives, and so I had to adjust for that and seal my Warbler differently as well to make sure it could handle the heat. I also wanted this really unique detailing here, and this is before foam bevels were easy to find. So what I did is I took nylon rope from a hardware store, and I wrapped it in Warbler and then attached it to itself. And I still use this trick now because nylon rope you can get it so many different thicknesses, and it's so easy to manipulate. So if you need a trim and you want it to be round instead of like the sharp triangular bevels, and you don't want to use foam, you can use rope. And the rope actually helps stabilize my armor more. So this is my very first tutorial. So you can see it's kind of sad. It's very tiny. And since then, I have written a lot more. If we just come over here, I've written so many more since that first one. And I have even more than this. But you have to start somewhere as a cosplayer, right? So you're not going to be perfect the entire time. So my first costume was a Diablo 3 Demon Hunter. I'll share some old scary photos. I don't want to share these photos, but I guess I should. Oh, guys, these photos are terrible. Oh, well. All right, anyways. So this is my Diablo 3 Demon Hunter. Let me see if it's sharing the window. I can't tell because I'm not looking at, oh no, it's not sharing the right one. Let me share the right one. This is hard to do. Okay, so this is me wearing it. The first photo, I don't have much of anymore, I don't think. But yeah, I had some fun in this costume. I think the very first photo, I don't know where it is, but my very first photo in that costume was, I was a mess. It was so hot. And this is me kind of trying everything on. So you can see like, okay, this is what I wear under it. And then here's all the armor on top. And I did have leg armor, but I got rid of it because it was one of those things that I learned that I don't like wearing leg armor unless it's completely flexible. So as I've cosplayed over time, I've learned what I can and cannot tolerate. I can tolerate a whole bunch of armor on my upper body and on my hips, but I cannot handle armor near my knees or my thighs. I can handle it on my calves for a short period of time if it's flexible. But these are things that you pick up over time as you create costumes. So be sure that if you see a character that you really like and you want to get started with it, I would suggest trying to find something similar to that, like maybe wearing layers of clothing and seeing if you can even handle that kind of attire. So testing out whether or not you can even tolerate the type of costumes you want to wear is good. When I first started cosplaying, I was really nervous to be in front of the camera. So I actually, my very first, I started out really really small. But my very first cosplay gatherings, I was the one behind the camera. I was not in front of it. I was too nervous and too scared to be in front of the camera. So I offered to be behind the camera. And I have to share, this is one of the very first videos I ever made. And guys, it's cheesy. I'm so sorry. But it just goes to show you that you have to start somewhere, because my videos now are much better, but you do have to start somewhere, and you start with this, okay? So this is what I started out with. I'll turn up the music a little bit. It's... I don't know, guys. And I'm behind the camera filming this. And I did all the editing, and I had to find copyright-free music. And I think it was the 105th group that I was filming with, so you start somewhere. It's a funny video, but it was so bizarre. So bizarre. I don't know what I was doing, but this is memory lane, so I wanted to try filming a music video, and this video is probably way longer than it needs to be, I'm gonna be honest. And then they're all dancing, and oh, that was actually kind of funny. yeah, that's where I started with cosplay. It was behind the camera. I did one costume, and then I was like, I'm scared. And I'm going behind the camera, and I started filming and taking photos and doing videos and just kind of going and having a lot of fun with people that I knew to get myself more comfortable. So my first costume that I wore was at Phoenix Comic Con 2014. And then I wore that same costume to Mesa Comic and Media Expo 2014 as well. And in Mesa Comic and Media Expo, I also decided to start kind of sewing more and creating more costumes. And so by that point, I had created another costume. I actually assisted I made my own costume and helped two other people. So my friend and sister Lena is actually a part of Thermo cosplay. And then I also did, oh goodness. Oh yeah, and then Stevie Spade cosplay. Also, if I have any connection problems, please let me know. The internet in my area has been kind of weird. But let me share this next thing. So the next costume that I made, I actually purchased a t-shirt. So it was like a men's button-up shirt, and I tailored it. I brought it in by 3 inches, or seam ripped the size, brought it in, removed 3/4 of the sleeve, and then created my own skirt for Elizabeth from BioShock Infinite. So this is kind of my next foray. I didn't know that you really shouldn't paint with spray paint on clothing because it doesn't wash well. So that was lesson learned. And I could only, for this costume, I could only dry clean it. So there were things that I did learn along the way. I learned about fabric paint, and I learned about textile medium. And okay, thank you, Tiny Rain Cloud, or Keychain, my buddy. Thank you, Aspen. Thank you for letting me know that I glitched. So yeah, I just saw a little alert saying that the internet might be lagging, and I was like, oh no. But this was the next costume that I kind of really focused on, and I used a found object, and then I used a circle skirt pattern, and I doubled it, and I created pleating, and this was just, okay, I'm testing things out, right? And this is also the first time it's the first time I wore a wig, so it's not perfect, but it's okay. I also helped Stevie Spade cosplay make her foam armor. As you can tell, we were learning, and it's not perfect, but it was still pretty good. I also ended up making the mask for my friend Lena out of Wonderflex, and we used a pair of sunglasses inside, and we had Velcro and just some D-rings that she could lace it up onto her face. And the sunglasses were super useful because Arizona's really bright, so she could just flip this mask on and off. And again, I used that same nylon rope wrapped in Warbler method, and then the base of it was actually Wonderflex. So the reason we did it was we were initially going to sew it onto her fur head, and then we decided to do it with Velcro so that she could easily take it on and off if she got really hot. So I'm just showing you all of this because I did start small. I didn't everything that you saw in that costume for San from Mononoke was from a thrift store that Lena threw together. She bought a dress, she clipped it in the back, and she bought another shirt, a big white shirt, cut it up the side, tied it. I mean, we used a lot of thrifted and found objects in the beginning. So yeah, so Tiny Rain Claus, I feel like you started at level 5, though. I started with thrift store cosplays. So I did start at level 5 with my Demon Hunter. I really should have started thrift store level and created props, kind of like how Lena did. I went reverse. I'm now doing the thrift store stuff later. I'm doing the easier found object, modifying, figuring stuff out, buying existing fabrics from thrift stores, taking them apart, learning more about garment construction so that I can construct my own patterns. Doing that now, when I probably should have done that in the beginning. So I did kind of go backwards, but I did start with armor building and leather work. So let me pull my Demon Hunter back up for a moment. So the corset that I'm wearing for my Demon Hunter, let's see here. I'll just open this one. I'll share it with you guys. This corset, pretty much made from scratch. I used a bit of a base, but the base didn't work. So we had to, like, I had to remove a lot of the inside of the corset. And all I could do was I could keep the channels, and I was able to keep the lace back and the buckles. And so I had to reattach everything, and then we had to sew on more leather and then sew on a layer of vinyl to get the color of brown that we wanted. So I started with leather work and armor work. I don't know why I chose those as my first forays into cosplay, but that's what I did. And I guess I just went down the difficult path first. I don't know why I did that. To each their own. You got to start somewhere, but I started really difficult. I suggest starting at the thrift store level. That is a lot smarter. But a little while later, I went more into sewing, and later in 2014, I met up with Amber Bright Props for the first time. And so I helped for our Raven. I made the belt and all the gems myself, and then we created her cape using just a normal base cape pattern, and then we sewed armature wire into the hood so that she could shape it however she wanted. For my Jinx cosplay, I did everything from scratch except for the tights and shoes, because I don't know how to make shoes and I didn't know how to make tights then. I do now. They're not fun, but I can do it. And then I actually had Amber Bright Props come over and hang out with me, and we just worked on foam together. And so this was the group that, I think it was FanFest 2014 that we did, and it was just kind of all of our own takes on different characters. And it was a lot of fun, but you all start. Everybody starts somewhere. I also did another sewing piece, which for some reason isn't showing up. And I wonder if I put it in I have a lot of folders. I'm going to suggest, if you're a cosplayer and you have photos, take work in progress shots. Even if you go to a thrift store, take pictures of the things that you've purchased so you remember how you're going to use them and what you're going to use them for. And then also put really nice folders. I found it. So the next costume I created was Yin from Darker Than Black. And this was also before I knew how to wear a wig right. So I didn't know what wig stays were. So my wig kept falling backwards because of the weight of my ponytail, but that's okay. So I made the mask using, once again, Wonderflex. And then I created the dress and the bolero from a pattern that I had to modify. I have very broad shoulders for a woman, so I have to go 2 sizes up in the shoulders, but then I have to take in the breast area because I don't have as much bosoms. And I still have this costume today. I've actually taken it in and tailored it considerably, because I lost a lot of weight from when I first started cosplaying. But as you can see, my wig is too far back. It's supposed to be right on my eyebrow line, but I just did not know how to keep it forward. And the weight of the ponytail just kept pulling it back. Now I've learned if I just clipped my ponytail up a little bit higher and faked it, it would have been fine. But, you figure stuff out late. And then for the little kitty, all I did was buy a kitty, and then I trimmed up his fur a bit, and I gave him a collar. So this was, that's contacts. This was, I think, my second costume I made, and then Jinx was my third costume that I made. Also, when I started cosplaying, I started with contacts because I thought it was normal for cosplayers to change their eye colors. So, and I'd been wearing contacts since I was 15. I don't see very well. I'm used to wearing contacts. So my very first cosplay literally had blood red colored contacts. Don't think you have to do that. It's okay. There are things like Photoshop and filters now that you can change your eye color. So if you do not regularly go to an eye doctor because you do not need contacts or prescriptions, don't worry about changing your eye color. Honestly, just do it in post, and it's not as important as you think it is, unless the only time that eye color usually becomes really important with characters is if they're wearing super simple clothing and the eye color is what makes them unique. Then, yeah, you might want to look at investing in contacts. But I, for some reason, was like, oh, I have to wear color contacts. And I have a really high prescription. And let's just say that all my costumes ended up being probably about $35, $40 more expensive because I had to insist on wearing eyewear. You don't have to do that. It's okay. It's okay. But after 2014, I started to feel a bit more comfortable in my costumes. I started to kind of feel myself, understand who I was becoming. And so this is kind of, this is a mid-year, this is a year later of me, like what I've done in a year's time. So this is a video from a year later showing you my progress. Or is this, wait. Oh, this is my music video compilation. This is the wrong one. Hang on, let me go back. I have too many video, guys. I have like way too many videos. I thought, let's see here. I can show you though. Yeah, let me stop this. Let me just show you some photos. So the very first costume I made was the Demon Hunter, which you saw. And then let's go exactly 1 year later. We'll go to the day Phoenix Comic Con 2015. The next cosplay I make was Misha from Borderlands, the pre-sequel. And I did a whole group. And it actually ended up looking really cool. So this is exactly 1 year later. I'm going to show you this picture. Where is it? Yeah, there it is. So I did help our Ellie with tracing out her patterns. We basically laid her on some fabric, drew her out really big because she's wearing pillows on her legs and on her body to make herself look much bigger. And then for Tiny Tina, all of it was thrift store items. She bought a bunch of different pants, shirts, and dresses, cut them all up, sewed them all back together, and created. She also bought, as you can see, 2 different kinds of shoes. And she threw this together. And then I made everything from scratch except for my pants. And obviously, again, shoes. So I did buy a base hat, but I had to completely paint it and alter it and also curve it more because for some reason it wasn't curved. But from the Demon Hunter to this, you can see that I've figured out foam armor better. I've figured out sewing better. I'm starting to get in the groove of fabric painting, understanding like photos a bit more, being more confident in them, and I'm having a lot more fun. 1 year can make a significant difference. Oh, bye, Tiny Rain Cloud. Thank you for joining. So there's a pretty big jump. And even right after that, oh my gosh, for the tutorial for that one was pretty intense. Like I wrote a cell shading fabric tutorial on how I did this. So the first tutorial you saw only had like 4 steps and it was really short and you could probably get through it in about 10 minutes. The next tutorial was fabric cell shading. And I shared the wrong tab. When you have so many tabs open, it's difficult to figure out. There it is. This is the tab. So this is, I think, the 3rd tutorial I ever wrote. And this one had a lot more detail in it. I showed you the first time I wore the costume and then the second time I wore it where I upgraded the leggings. But here I went into a lot more detail. I kind of showed like a summary of what I'm doing, what my reference images are, and then I break it down and I have more images and more information. And I show more progress to show people that like where you start and where you end can be significantly different. So, trust in the process and let it happen. I also showed after and then things that I learned, lessons learned from doing this and what I wanted to do and why I made it the way I did. So this tutorial is just a little bit longer than my first tutorial and it had a lot more detail and it was really, really useful. And then just a little bit after that, I make another tutorial where I get even longer and my tutorials started getting really, really detailed. So literally I want to say like 2 or 3 months right after that Nisha tutorial, I came out with a Yuri from Dirty Pair Flash tutorial. And I had photos from when I originally wore it and then more recent photos of that character. And I learned to break down the materials and the tools that I was using. I showed a lot more work in progress and what the base was, how everything looked. I went through what I used for materials in every single section so that people can understand what's involved. I also started linking out additional tutorials that I used for reference, which I had forgotten to do before in previous descriptions. And I got better at taking pictures, because that was one thing that I had a lot of people ask for was, hey, what's your work in progress look like? And I'm like, that's a really good point. I wasn't showing as much as I should have been. So this is kind of where it all went. And this is not my longest tutorial. My longest tutorial is Yojimbo, and it's long. But that was because I was doing that for cosplaysupplies.com, and I wanted to really get into it. But yeah, this took about 55, 60 hours to make. I also helped Lena make hers as well. We worked together on both of these, and it was really fun. But that was just all a year later. That wasn't 1 year, right? I've made, oh my goodness, probably 65, 70 costumes at this point. Not all of them for myself. I've helped people make costumes. I've made costumes for groups, and I've had people participate with me. I've done commissions. But in 7 years, I've made almost 70 costumes. That's a lot. Don't be crazy like me. Also, this is just kind of a Q&A talking about experience, lessons learned. So if you do have any questions about cosplay, or you need some advice on something, please post it in the channel, and I'll definitely get to it today. Let me take a drink of water. I've been talking a lot. Okay. I really like this. If I could wear this outside all the time, I would. It's like perfectly comfortable inside my house. But this would be so hot if I wore it outside. I'd probably still do it. To be honest, I probably would still do it. So, I started in 2014, and by, I want to say, I believe it was in 2015, but a year later. So I started in May of 2014. And by the end of 2016, I became much more confident. I was starting to wear corsets and body painting, and I was working with thermoplastics and foams and molding and casting. I mean, I went crazy. I had people that were asking me to test materials for them within the first year of me starting. And it was probably because, once again, I was using Instructables for tutorials, and they were growing at that time. And I need to get back to my tutorials, guys. I have like 3 I need to write for you. Anyways, but this is the video that you saw my first video. This is a year later, and I'm finally behind and in front of the camera now. So here's this is a PCC Fan Fest, so Phoenix Comic Con Fan Fest. They used to have 2 events a year, and now they only have 1. Phoenix Comic Con is also now known as Phoenix Fan Fusion, and Phoenix Fan Fusion will be happening in January of next year. But I finally was like, maybe I should start filming what it looks like on the con floor too. And I started getting a little bit better with my composition of videos and just having fun with it. So that's Stevie Spade cosplay as Gaston. And that's Stevie Spade again. So these are older videos, but they were fun. And this was a Madame Penguin. It's actually my mom. The Ellie was my mom as well. So when I cosplay, I get like everybody to cosplay. My brother, my sister, my mom, my cousins, my nieces and nephews, And that's me as Magpie from DC. That was a unique costume. It's like basically booty shorts and a black corset with feathers all around my neck. It's very bizarre. And there's Lena. This venue was actually it was a really unusual venue. It was at, I believe, an arena. And that was so odd. Sorry, Ivy. You lost your Harley. And again, this is just 1 year later, so my videos still aren't, they're okay. They're not what they are these days, but, you know, you grow and you learn. And that's my brother, as Mr. Freeze. That's literally a trash can on his head, if I recall correctly. You can use trash cans, guys. It works. And this is over several days as well. This is over, I believe, 2 or 3. That's me. Being weird. Because why not, guys? And that's me again in the white body paint. So my first year was a whirlwind for cosplay. I think I made like 4 or 5 costumes. I helped other people make 3 or 4 costumes. I did like my first panel and my first competition, and it was just year 1 was what most people do year 3. Okay. So I suggest slowing down a little bit because I went a little crazy. And after 2015, everything picked up for me. By 2016, I was regularly at panelist at conventions. I was regularly making videos. I was writing some really serious tutorials. So I believe in 2016, I wrote, it's 2016, I wrote my Nora Valkyrie tutorial, which is where I made my first large prop. It was... oh gosh, it's 6 feet 2 inches tall, I think. So it's Maghild, which is her hammer / grenade launcher. But this was the first costume where I did absolutely everything except for the wig and shoes once again. Because, it's wig and shoes, guys. Like, I did modify the shoes, though. I had to cut them up and I had to re-sew and alter them and completely change some of the grommets for the lacing because they weren't good. I also had to fix the zipper. I have this curse where if I buy anything with a zipper in it, I break it instantly. So I always have extra zippers on hand because I just seem to be, I must have really strong hands. I break zippers all the time. So, but 2 years later, I did a Nora Valkyrie cosplay build. And this was an intense build. I had to do layered circle skirts. I had to learn how to install zippers on skirts too, which is a little bit different when you've got like a booty like I do. So I had to learn how to curve everything so that there wasn't any rippling. I had to modify. I had to dye my own laces pink because I couldn't find the right shade. And then I had to sew new fabric and alter the shoes and remove the top and then sew it back on so it would get the folded look because it was not staying folded. I made my own shirt and my own gloves, and I learned how to make bows for the first time. They are actually really easy. I am so surprised at how easy it is to make a bow. But this was just within 2 years, I was having the time of my life. I also had to learn for the first time how to do a cutout because Nora has this big cutout in her boob area, and it was like a heart. Only I failed epically at it. I made it too big, so I turned it into a circle. Because I failed so hard that it was just like, let's show everything. And by turning it into a circle, it wasn't like, let's show everything. It was like, oh, okay, we'll keep everything in place. So sometimes you have to modify and that's okay. But I did have to learn how to like do cutouts and overlays and make everything look pretty seamless. And that was very difficult for me because I don't have any sewing. I have very, very little sewing training. Like I mostly was a hand sewer, so I had to learn how to use a machine, to learn how to fix it and oil it, draft my own pattern on myself in my dress form. So it was a lot of learning. And then I had to learn how to do more foam crafting so that it was more fitted. And figure out how to attach it to my garment without it, causing damage. I actually on this garment, I have everything attached with Velcro. So there were about 16 pieces of Velcro that were at certain contact points where I knew I would move it. It could pop off so that it would stay better. I believe I had I had Velcro at the peak of the vest, peak of the breast, on the shoulders, under breast, right on my rib cage, down the full strip that goes down the side, and then all the way around the hips. So a lot of little pieces, because I learned that big pieces of Velcro were not easy to work with. Then I did my first wood crafting too. So I had to get a jigsaw, learn how to use a jigsaw for the first time, because I've used table saws, but I've never used a handsaw. I also had to learn how to make little tubes. Later on, these tubes, I ended up using Pringles cans with my future one because way lighter and easier. I honestly suggest Pringles cans or just some kind of chip can. It's much lighter. I also had to learn about contact cement and ventilation and wearing masks and gloves to protect my hands. I used pens to help keep things in place while things were drying, or to for this one, I wanted to see the placement before I glued it on. So I'd pin it in place and take pictures and see if it worked, and then I would glue it. So I have foam pins. Well, I have like fabric pins for foam, and I have fabric pins for fabric, because fabric pins for foam are pretty useful. I also learned about, for the first time, the foam cutting method, where you can cut into the foam and then heat it up, and it creates that nice overlay. So that was a lot of work, guys. And I had that prop for a long time. I just recently gave it away because I am going to be 3D printing it. But this is the full look. And it was a lot of fun. But I'm in shoes about 5'10", 5'10", 5'11". So you can imagine how big that prop is. And I even have it tilted. It's a really tall prop. But Nora's hammer was big, so it's taller than her. And I had to make it taller than me, and I'm tall. So it's... Okay, we're going to stop talking. We're going to stop talking about Nora. But that was all within 2 years' time. At the end of that year, I also created the first time I really wanted to do a claymore, and I finally did my claymore. And this is probably one of my favorite costumes. I intend to remake this. I made it out of material that was pure polyester. It was stretch polyester. It was incredibly hot. It looked really good, but I could not tolerate the heat anymore. It didn't breathe at all. Some of the polyester blends that I have spandex in them, and it's typically polyester and an athletic spandex blend, but this one was just pure stretch polyester, and I think it was like polyester rayon, maybe. It was so hot though. And I also learned for this one how to style a wig. So I learned how to use like the heat method, like steam, to kind of create like a curl in the wig. I hate wigs still, guys. That's one thing I don't know I'll ever get good at. Like, if I have to spike a wig, I just hang it upside down, spike it, and let it like clip it onto a coat hanger, and we're done. But if you want me to make a wig look pretty, I have to hire somebody, because I'm terrible. I'm so bad at wigs. But this one, I had never made shoulder pauldrons so large. So that was where I had to figure out how to support it with like pads and Velcro, so that I could still move my shoulders and it wouldn't just flop off. So it's secured. What it is it's secured over the cape and underneath the, it starts with the G, the thing that goes around my neck. It starts with the G. It's basically a fabric choker, but it's longer. It has an armor name, and it starts with the G. And I'll remember it later. But for this one, I actually started with a full-length bodysuit, and I traced it onto some patternies, and then I changed it into a pair of pants and a shirt. And it worked out pretty well. I don't know why these are turned, but they are. So as you can see, they did not turn out too bad. Like, it was pretty good for a first pair of pants and shirt. And I was like, this is awesome. I also learned how to create like a nice point. And I did have to put a little bit of elastic inside of my costume neck so that I could pull my head in and out of it. And then for the cape, it was literally just a half circle skirt that I made short, and it looked really cool on my mannequin and it looked really cool on me. So I just stuck it as it was. And for the boots, I did the saran wrap and painter's tape, created some covers, sewed some elastic into it so that it would stay above my calf really well when it slipped down, and then pulled it over tight over a pair of existing boots and then glued it down with hot glue, later on contact cement because hot glue didn't hold at the tips of the foot. The gorget. I put the word there. So gorget. Thank you, Ray. Hi, Sean. I literally should have just scrolled down more. I literally put gorget. I'm like, it's a G. But I first made the gorget out of foam. It was terrible. I hated it. So then I made it out of fabric, and it just worked so much better. Like the fabric was way more comfortable, and I was able to just use a fabric pen to draw on the designs. And then the armor was also for the hips originally foam, and I also hated that. So I took the foam and I put it inside fabric, and it looked way better. So sometimes it's a failure, sometimes it's not. And then for the bracers, not greaves, bracers and pauldrons. For the pauldrons, I actually laid down on a piece of paper and drew the shape of my own shoulders and then exaggerated it. And then for the bracers, I just wrapped my arm in saran wrap and some painter's tape, drew on the pattern, and then made it 2 sizes bigger and added some details. With the foam I was using, I knew I needed more seam allowance, and it worked out really well. But this was I think at this point, this was like the 8th or 9th costume that I made. So I was starting to get a lot more confident in my costumes. I was getting more confident in my posing. I was having a lot more fun. But again, this is only after 2 years. And I was starting to I was wanting to really branch out. And I was wanting to do something really, really difficult. So naturally, so I started in 2014. And by 2017, I think it is, by 2017, let me double check. Let me check the time for you here, guys. So 3 years later, starting in 2014, by 2017, I decided I'm going to cast a silicone mask. Why did I do this to myself? So in 3 years of being a cosplayer, I decide I'm going to be Thane Krios from Mass Effect. Have I made a mask before? No. Have I sculpted before? Sure. Have I ever created a mold for a mask? Nope. Have I created any 2-part molds before? Heck no. Do I know what I'm doing? Absolutely not. But was I going to do it? Yes. And thus went the $400 journey into creating Thane Krios, because there were goofs along the way. Plus, I wanted really good fabric. I bought super expensive fabric, which I regret now looking back and going, oh, I did not use that fabric right. But it's okay. You know what? It was interesting. But within 3 years, I decided I was going to go all out and create one of my favorite characters from the Mass Effect series. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get him exact because there were so many sewing techniques on here that at that point in time in 2017, I didn't know how to do. But I was, gosh darn it, I was going to try. So that's what I did. I'm really good at sculpting. I like to sculpt, but this was my first time using wax-based clay, which you have to heat up. So that was a learning curve for me. So I actually spent 12 hours on the first sculpt, and I hated it, and I completely melted it off of my mannequin head and then re-sculpted it again, and it took me another 20 hours to sculpt it, and it looked much better. I don't think I actually even told people like that I documented this on here, but it was much better the second time around. So you can see all the detail work in there, and it was a beast. It was an absolute beast. I also had to learn how to create a mold. I took Sculpey and created like this baseline around here, kind of like a wall. And then I created one side of the mold and I flipped it to make for silicone. I found out you really shouldn't have a soft mold. You should have a hard mold. So I took resin, quickset resin, and I filled it with Urafil so that it would get fluffier. And this is 3 coats of resin and Urafil on one side. And then I did it on the other side as well. And I had a couple areas where when I pulled the mold apart, like the mother mold, it had cracked. So I had to fill it in and fix it. So, I learned that you need to be a lot more gentler when prying stuff apart. And then I cast it. I went straight, like I didn't even test. Don't do what I did. I had never cast silicone before. I just went in and was like, I can do this. I'm going to follow the directions. I'm going to be fine. I highly suggest casting silicone in a smaller mold first just to see how it behaves and then doing what I did. But no, I went for it. I just went completely for it. I'm pretty sure I used EcoFlex. Yep, I used EcoFlex from Smooth On. And I used some clips from Home Depot, and I just rotocast. So what I did is I mixed the parts together, poured it in, and then I continued to move the mother mold in my hand until the liquid didn't shift at all anymore. And I had to do that. I had to do that 6 times to fill it completely. And then I pulled out this, which wasn't too bad for the first attempt and only attempt that I ever did. So I did have to trim it because I didn't know what I was doing. And yeah, there's a lot of flashing on there, but oh well. From there, I went into sewing, which a quick tip, if you have like a really complicated design and you don't have embroidery and you don't want to draw on your fabric, I used painter's tape to create it. And then I carefully peel it off and lay it onto a piece of pattern ease and then cut out the pattern ease and then use that as my pattern for the design. And it worked pretty well. You could also just honestly tape on a piece of like tracing paper and draw the design and then take it off, cut the tracing paper out, and then use that as your pattern too. But this is a work in progress. I did remake the shirt twice. The first time I cut it so low that like you could almost see my nipples. And I was like, oh, and so then I had to raise it up a little bit. Because that green mesh shirt I was wearing was mesh and see-through. And I was like, yeah, no, don't need boobs hanging out, guys. For the front flap right here, I actually have a piece of Velcro so that it doesn't flip up and it clips right there. So it's easy for me to flip it up, use the bathroom real fast, and then put it right back down. And then you'll see these lines with a fabric marker on the leggings. And that's an area where I knew I needed to cut out the fabric to create this. Now, I also used stretch and non-stretch fabrics together. I'm going to say if you're going to use stretch and non-stretch fabrics in tandem, that you need to have a mannequin that's almost identical to your size. Because if you don't, it's never going to work. So this was end result. But I did also not... Another thing to do before using silicone, guys, don't use any other paint except silicone paints on it. Because I used alcohol-based paint and it lasted. It's still on my, don't mind, it's still on my actual mask, but there's so many layers of it and it's so difficult to get off now. And it's doing this weird flaking thing and it's not an attractive texture. It's just like a, ugh. So don't, just paint it with the right paints. I'm going to say that it's going to look great like once or twice and then you're going to hate it. But in the end, this is the very first time that I wore it. I was at Tucson Comic-Con, and oddly enough, 3 years later, I do this crazy big build. It's very ambitious. I actually, the white stripe went all the way up to my knee at the start of the day, and then I had a serious garment malfunction. So we cut off the stripe on the ring because it was trying to pull the ring down and pull my pants down the whole day. So not good. I don't know why it was doing that. So we trimmed it off, and then we just used a hand sewing technique to tack it onto the bottom part so that it wouldn't pull anymore. But yeah, that was my 3rd year of cosplay. I'm crazy, guys. I'm crazy. I'm wild. After Thank Reels, I went wild. I really did. There was no stopping me. I was like, I can take over that world. And so I did Kratos, and I did an Amazon Warrior, and Leafeon, and Yojimbo, and Maya the Siren, and the list goes on. Now I'm pretty much trying to take on everything, but I'm also trying to get a bit smarter with stuff. So if I can save time and I'm not competing, I'll try to use a thrift store object or a found object, or I'll try to buy something that looks similar and alter it. Like my Draculaura, I bought a white skirt and I removed the shorts from it so that I could add the tool. I bought a pink shirt that was really similar, and I'm going to be sewing mesh onto it so it's a little bit more comfortable to wear. But there's some things that you might have to tailor and adjust and make it easier and cheaper on yourself. If there's a cheaper, easier way to do it, do it. Because otherwise you're going to go, whoa, like that was a lot of work. I also saw a pretty good improvement in my videos. I mean, you guys saw my first videos. They're kind of funny and cheesy and like, okay, that's all right. They're not too bad. And then I get, like, for instance, this is 2018. So I'll show you a video that I made in 2018 that was just a fun little video compilation from different things throughout the year, different events. And this is also a big change in my filming photography style. This is also, guys, where I started taking more selfies finally. So, and I got like a camera stabilizer so that my videos weren't shaking as much. Because before it was like, now it's a lot better too, but we also have technology that helps. So in these ones, I'm usually a director. I'm telling people how I want it filmed. This was like, I think, my first big guest event. I was a guest at KMON Expo. And that's Sabaku-kan. My little tiny bed. I literally almost fell, and we just kept it because it was so funny. It was too funny. Proper ladies. I'm going to be excited when we can do Star-Lord dances again. I miss Star-Lord dances. Lena, Star-Lord dances. Oh, I learned my lesson not to troll too high after this. Kirby! But that's kind of where, cosplay has taken me. There's more to come. Obviously, I haven't really produced a whole lot of convention video content since KikoriCon 2020, but we are going to see more of that. So I've talked so much about like so many different costumes, but let's talk about what's going to happen. So this year, I will be at SabotinCon Labor Day weekend. I will be running 2 workshops, 2 workshops, 2 panels. Sorry guys, I'm really tired. Okay, so the 2 workshops that I'm running are going to be a thermoplastics workshop and a body painting workshop. So look for those on the programming. And then I'll be running a retro anime panel and a CosTuck live panel on that Saturday. So we will be at SabotinCon. SabotinCon is requiring masks. I am vaccinated, so if you do want to approach me, please let me know. I probably will not be accepting hugs, but elbow bumps, fist bumps probably will be totally fine. And I do have a lineup. I am coming with my Nurse Joy, which none of you have seen. I'm coming with an updated version of Lady Dimitrescu from Resident Evil Village. I'm coming with a Sasuke Uchiha, which none of you have seen. I'm also coming with and a Medusa from Fate Stay Night. So I will be doing the writer. Medusa's the writer? I think. But that's what I'm doing. And then, yes, Rob, maybe power armor in the future. But I am going to be wearing some new costumes, KDA Ari Moore. I'll be coming with 6 different costumes because there'll be a couple times where I have to change for the workshops to present things that I'm going to be wearing. Then after SabotinCon, the next comic event that I have planned that I know is happening is YumaCon. I will be a guest at YumaCon in October, first weekend of October. I want to say it's like the 2nd and 3rd or 3rd and 4th. I think it's the 2nd and 3rd. And I will be in YumaCon and Yuma, Arizona. And I plan on bringing Star Wars cosplays. So I'm planning on bringing my Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars Rebels. It's the episode Gone with the Trace. She's wearing the mechanic's outfit. And then I'm also planning on bringing my Mandalorian Merida. I will have a Booth Babe Papa Fallout helping me out. We're gonna just give some demos and presentations at my booth. I will be offering rewards for charitable donations. I do not raise money for my own business. I only raise money for charities. So I will have 2 charities that I'm raising money for, and you can choose what your money to go to. But after that, I don't really have any plans. I have no confirmed plans. I would like to make it to Emerald City Comic Con, but I haven't received confirmation back from them on whether or not my panels have been confirmed, because I really enjoy speaking there. Also, I'm really nervous to go in December. I'm used to going in March when it's cooler, but anyways, yeah. Oh yeah, and YumaCon will be doing giveaways. So giveaways and charity is what YumaCon's all going to be about for me. So this year, the only 2 things that I know are guaranteed, SabotinCon and YumaCon. 2022. I already have 3 confirmed. I'm competing at TaiYuCon apparently. Or maybe, unless things change. Which they can, but I intend on going to TaiYuCon. And then the following week in January, I'm going to Phoenix Fan Fusion, because I was asked about panels. And then the following weekend, I'll be a guest at Tempe FanCon. So that January is going to be really busy. So that means my February is probably going to be really quiet. There is potentially a chance for me to go to an event in March of next year. And Costalk Live's already been invited to an event, I believe in July of 2022 in New Jersey. So we'll see what happens with that. But guaranteed January is going to be really busy for me. Unless things change with the pandemic, I will be going to an event basically every weekend. Yeah. So it was great hanging out with all of you guys. I need to still finish up packing. I'm almost done with everything. I had a lot more to do for my conference trip than I realized. But I will see all of you again. Not this weekend, but the following weekend for a stream. I'm working on a commission, so maybe I'll be showing you guys some of the work that I'm doing on a commission for a Power Ranger. Well, not Power Ranger, for a villain in the Power Rangers universe. Not for me, it's for someone else, obviously. That's what a commission is. But I will actually record some of the stuff I'm doing with the Medusa from Fate's Day Night. I'm really excited and nervous to be that character. She's very revealing to me, but she's also really sexy. So we'll see. I can do it. But it's great talking to all of you guys. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or Instructables, or even through the website, thermocosplay.com. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I hope this is informative, and I'll see you all in 2 weeks for the ThermoStream and for Costalk Live. So bye, everybody.